You're listening to the What's Happening podcast with Gary Watts.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here with Bobby Thompson from Thompson Co Salon, hair salon, right?
Hair salon and parlor, man.
How you doing?
I'm
How
doing
was your
great,
morning?
man.
Did you get started early?
You know what? 4:45 that alarm hit, and it was ready to rock and roll.
I hear
man.
you guys are out there early running. Is that a fun group?
You know what? It is the best group I've ever been a part of. Those guys are.
Sun's coming up.
Oh yeah.
Cakes
yeah.
on the grill, right?
You know what? That's it, man. You know,
Yeah.
racing for that bacon at the end,
Yeah.
bacon and eggs at the end.
So I think everybody in Johnson County, say, or Iowa City area, everybody knows Bobby Thompson, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
Not
you know,
everybody.
yeah.
So let's talk about today a little bit about Bobby Thompson. Where'd you come from? Tell us about your background, family, and then maybe we'll start getting into the salon or whatever we want to talk about. So who is Bobby Thompson?
Yeah. So I grew up in the Chicago area.
What part of Chicago?
Carroll Stream, Illinois. So it's if you put a dot right in between St. Charles, Schaumburg, Naperville, we're
Okay.
right there.
So you're in the outskirts, west.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. Grew up there. You know, oldest of three. Mom and dad are still out there. The whole family's still out there. Went to the University of Iowa for the first time for a football camp. They weren't looking at me. They were looking at my buddy. But I got to tag along, you know. And
Oh, really? A football camp. What year were you? A senior, junior?
I was a junior at the time. Came down. You know, I remember going to the football camp, having a good time, good camp, whatever. But we were walking around the town, a couple of the players. And my dad is one of the nicest guys in the world. He said hi to everyone growing up. And Chicago is one of those things that you didn't really do that.
You don't do that.
You know, your hands in your pocket.
Keep your head down.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
No eye contact.
Yeah, right. And we were walking down the street, and all these people are saying hi to us. And one of the other players looked at me and goes, you know those guys? I go, no, I don't. And he's like, what do you think they're doing? I'm like, I think they're being nice. And it reminded me of home, and it reminded me of my dad. And it was something that was just an easy transition to come to this town. And, you know, got here for 4 years, maybe a little extra of college. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. It was 2007. By the time that I had finally gotten done, I was running a lot of the bars and restaurants in the downtown scene. And
What'd you major in?
So I majored in health promotion.
Okay.
So I knew I always wanted to be, you know, something active in sports. I was big into football. That was my favorite by far, but baseball, wrestling, you know, things like that growing up. And I wanted to be an athlete or be around athletes. I liked the aspect of team. I liked being able to compete. You know, I'm a pretty intense guy at times. So
Let's go back to high school where you told me you played football. And wasn't a coach told you you're too small?
Yeah. So
Tell us that story. I love that.
Yeah. So my freshman year, I remember I showed up. I was like 4'8" and, you know, 155 pounds. And like, you know, we had a high school that I graduated with 985 kids.
Can't imagine that.
It's
bigger than some towns in Iowa.
Yeah. It was, you know, you got lost. You could get lost easy.
Yeah.
And I remember we showed up and the coach was like, okay, go to the position you want to play. So I'd always played guard and tackle and all that stuff. And I was like, I'm going to go play tailback. And I got in the tailback line and, you know, the coach was like, hey, you're a guard, man. Get over there. And I was like, no, coach, I'm a tailback. And they're like, no, man, you're a guard. And, you know, it was so much so that I stayed there. But I was getting passed up for reps, and I actually had to run Redbirds, is what we called them, these laps around the field because I kept cutting in front of the line and stealing guys' reps.
That's great.
So by the end of the week, you know, I was our fifth tailback on the freshman team.
Wow.
And ended up being, you know, a starter and, you know, playing more than a couple years of varsity. And you know, it was being told that I couldn't do something. You know, I've heard that a lot, and it's actually kind of how I got into hair a little bit. But you know,
so that was a lesson you learned.
Yeah.
A life lesson.
Yeah, you know, small, you know, slow, you know, those are all things that if you put your mind to it, I think you can overcome. And
so if you were talking to a young guy today, would you recommend playing football?
Oh my God. The reason why I've been able to do what I've done is because of that sport. You know, I mean, the challenge, the adversity, being told no and then fighting through it. Yeah, I mean, it's something that's not easy. It's and it really challenges you to say, hey, am I gonna take the easy way out and be what everyone tells me I'm gonna be, or am I gonna take the next step and try to really push?
A lot of discipline. And then you have teammates. So if you miss a block or if you miss an assignment, guess what? You let your teammates down.
Yeah. Well,
So it teaches you teamwork.
yeah. And the thing about football was nice too, is like it's reactive, right? So
Right.
it's like, you know, I got 10 yards that I got to move fast, and sometimes 10 yards becomes a little bit more than that.
Right.
But those 10 yards are, you know, it's all out. And
A lot of times you hear a tailback ran for 100 yards and it didn't seem like very far. It's just down the field once. But try to get 2 or 3, 4 yards as a tailback. That's a lot going on when those linebackers coming after you.
Yeah, they're not small.
So anyway, sorry, I went back. I just want to drop back to high school. Now let's get to college.
Yeah.
What was your fondest memories of Iowa? It sounds like you're on your way to be thinking about it in the hair business, but
Yeah.
so
You know, the first year actually, I wanted to go home. I was done, and I came out here by myself. You know, we had a big high school, but I think there was 5 of us from my high school at the time that it came out, and I wanted to do something completely different where no one knew me. I could be who I wanted to be. You know, in high school, you kind of find your friend groups and things like that, and I wanted the challenge, and I kind of liked the idea of almost like a fresh start, almost like a phoenix from the fire. You know, restarting things. So when I came out here, that first year was really tough, really challenging. Not, I met a lot of people, but kind of fell in being a football player. I gravitated towards team. And one of the teams that I got into that I, maybe wasn't the best at the time was the bar scene. And you kind of fall into some bad habits, some things like that. But, met a lot of great friends during that time too. And, really started to blossom into Iowa. And the thing that I loved about Iowa is the community aspect. I mean, like you started to meet people and know people and saying hi and finding out their stories and learning about people. And even though I was going to college, the thing that I was actually learning the most was I was learning from others, life experiences and different situations of where they came from. And, the one thing, what I do with hair and why I think I'm good at hair is, obviously there's a skill there, but it's almost like an anthropologist. You hear people's stories every single day. And it's really cool to see people's dynamics of where they came from, how it shaped them, how it grew them, and I've been able to take a lot of lessons from behind the chair to improve my own life. So,
you hear a lot of stories, I bet, huh?
oh man, you hear some stuff.
Yeah, and you keep up with a lot of people. So the bar scenes, what'd you do in the bars? What was
Bartended, bar backed, general manager, kind of did a little bit of everything. Kind of worked at all the bars. I love the idea of the bar because it was a really social setting. But it's kind of funny because I'm very outgoing and I love talking to people. But I actually, in a crowded scene, I kind of pulled back a little bit. So the bar was a really nice area for me to be able to step behind and kind of almost have that barrier where I could really put my head down and work. I wouldn't say I was a lazy kid, but there was definitely times that I would sit around and mope and whatever. And like the bar kind of taught me how to not only be accountable, but like also how to find systems and how to move and how to create efficiencies in everything I did. And I kind of fell into that and love that. And like I said, the team too, like if we didn't run as a team well, like the bar would have a bad night. Right. And like everyone had a job, everyone had a specific job. And like, getting into the management side, it was really fun to see that system kind of roll and play. And it was like, almost like getting a bike going, those wheels start moving slow. And then, man, when we were humming, it was awesome to see that.
So when you're from Chicago, did you know anything about Iowa? Did you know where Iowa was?
I had an uncle from Iowa, and we had went out there one time for a family reunion. I remember catching lightning bugs, but I remember, every time I'd go home, my buddy AJ would be like, "Hey, Bobby, how's Iowa in the cornfields?" I'm like, first off, dude, no one talks like that. Okay, just stop. But,
sometimes you do late at night, maybe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, that's funny because I know in Chicago, you mentioned Iowa. Where's that? Because Chicago is its own world.
Yeah.
What is there, 5-10 million people? I mean, I don't even know how many live in that area.
There's a lot.
But a lot of people don't know where we are. So you had some Iowa roots. That's cool. Tell us about, you mentioned your father came out. Mm-hmm. And he could talk to everybody or anybody. He was always saying hi. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your folks, what they do, and a little bit about them. And then I want to get into your grandfather who flew off carriers, right?
Oh, yeah, man.
In Korean or World War II or whatever.
He was the OG Bobby Thompson. He was the first. So, yeah. he was a bad dude. But my dad was, an engineer, petroleum plant in Lamont, Illinois, pretty much for as long as I can remember. He was the dad that would go to work every single day, come home, and it didn't matter how tired he was, but we'd be playing catch. He'd play baseball with us. He'd play football with us. He'd read a book. At the end of the night, he was the epitome of what a dad, should be, man.
That's cool.
It was awesome. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She was there for, it was kind of one of those things where we'd be outside all morning, door would open up at noon. We'd get called in for lunch, and then we'd be back outside the rest of the day. And it was great upbringing. Cool. So, yeah.
So he's an engineer. So back to the bar scene. You're here, you're working in a bar, you have teamwork. And then you kind of branched into, because I want to get into Kayla and your lovely family.
Yeah.
So how did you meet her, and then maybe get into the hair salon business and talk about Thompson Co?
Yeah. So we were 6 weeks from graduation. And we were all running bars. I was living with a bunch of other bartenders and bar managers. And we're sitting around, probably a little hungover that morning. And one of my friends comes home. He goes, guys, I know what I'm going to do the rest of my life. And we're like, nice, man. You got a job. Heck yeah. He's like, I'm going to open up salons with my dad. And all of us were just kind of like, what? And he's like, no, man. He's like, what's something that somebody always needs? Haircut, And he's like, if you make people feel good about themselves, we work in a bar industry where we're trying to make people feel good about themselves, but it's for the wrong reasons. And like with hair, this is like the way that you present yourself to the world is the way that you feel. And you can make somebody feel, coming from this big, to feeling larger than life with a haircut. And, those really kind of stuck with me because, the bar scene, as cool as it was, and it was fun and we had friends, but it was a really empty life. And it was like, Groundhog Day, every kind of, you sit there and it's repeat every single day, the same thing. And, that kind of stuck with me. And I had been around, I had a friend in high school that, she was a model. And like, I went and seen her model a couple times. And I was always blown away by beauty. I thought it was a really cool thing to see these people that just had like pristine everything. And like the level of pride that came with carrying yourself that way. So, a couple late night conversations and, a couple beers. One day he finally asked me, he's like, hey, he's like, come down to this, the hair school tomorrow. My dad's teaching and he needs a model for a haircut. So I walk into the school.
Was it LaJames?
It was LaJames, L.A. James, as I like to call it. And I had no plan of ever doing anything with hair. I just had walked in for this haircut, and I'm standing in this waiting room with this gentleman. He's dressed in a suit, standing very proper, and just confidence exuding from him. And I walk up to him, Bobby, hey, what's up, man? I'm Bobby Thompson. How are you? Nice to meet you. He's like, oh, I'm Bill. Nice to meet you too. And I go, you must be getting your hair cut too. He's like, he laughs, and he's like, no, actually, I'm cutting your hair today. And I looked at him. I'm like, you're not a hairdresser. You know what I mean? You're a doctor. You're a lawyer. You're something different. And he's like, no, he kind of, chuckled at that. And he's like, no, I'll be cutting your hair. So he sat me down in the chair and I walked into this room and it's filled with, all these students. And I'm sitting there. I'm a pretty confident guy at the time. But I had never had a good haircut. I had had these 3 Italian barbers that I went to my whole life as a kid. And you got the one or you got the two. That was it, And the one was a crew cut, the two was a flat top. You know what I mean? And that was it.
So butch wax.
Yeah. Yeah, I looked like my grandpa Bob for about a week, and then it'd grow out and, stopped going to them. And I remember I asked my mom, I wanted a cool haircut. I was like 13 years old. And it was really at that time of life where you're going through puberty. It's a weird time. You want to feel confident. And I'm like, I need a cool haircut, Mom. Like, you know what I mean? She's like, come down to my Lady Maria. She's great. And I went and I sat in that chair and I was so excited. So excited. I sat down in that chair. She looks at me and she goes, all right, what do you want? And I was immediately deflated because I wanted a cool haircut, but I wanted you to tell me. I didn't, that's why I'm coming to you, And I remember I got the haircut. It was fine. It was whatever. I looked like a potato for 3 weeks. And then, I ended up having to grow it out. And I ended up going to some girl down the street because she was nice for years. So I remember sitting in this chair, in Bill's chair, the guy that was cutting my hair, and thinking like, okay, I'm just going to get, another potato haircut. Here we go. And he starts instructing the class. And he starts talking about my head shape, my hair, and what it can do, and starts talking about, masculine line and how it can create strength and stuff like this. And as he's cutting my hair, I remember like seeing my face change and I started seeing like crowds reaction, like of the students. And like by the end of the haircut, he turned me around, showed it in the mirror. It was the best haircut I ever had. I mean, it wasn't even close. And like that confidence level that I exuded was through the roof, man. I probably was, I'm 5'9", I was probably walking out like I was 6'6", And, he said, he's like, hey, just hang out for a couple minutes. We want to take you to lunch. And I was, dude, free haircut, best haircut of my life. Now I'm getting free lunch, poor college kid. I'm like, this is awesome. So, I'm waiting in this room. And I remember sitting in this room. So it's a little office. And I'm like, there's one door, no windows. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. And him and my buddy walk in and they're like, hey, they got a piece of paper in their hand. Like, Bill's like, you can talk to anybody. And I can see the confidence that you have. And like, you would be awesome at this. And for him to be able to have that confidence in the way like he did everything and like the way that he talked about, the confidence that he saw from me gave me more. But he's like, if you do this, if you go to school, you'll be great. And, you know, we'll get you started. We'll make it, you know, part of the business, running it and things like that, because we know you've done that for a long time. And I remember they put down the contract in front of me, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, what's this? And they're like, you can sign this contract and, you know, we'll take care of school, do all that and whatever. And I was like, oh my God, my parents are going to kill me. Oh my God, I can't do hair. Oh my, you know what I mean? And I'm like, so I'm like, okay. And I signed the I'm like, can I have a couple days to think about this? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So we go to lunch, and, you know, my head's spinning. I'm like, what do I do? But it kind of went back to a couple things. Like, I love people. I love people. And like, I knew how confident I felt. And I was like, man, if I could give that confidence to somebody else, how amazing of a gift that could be. And, you know, I had a couple buddies that were working back in Chicago. They were working for a company called Countrywide Financial and Countrywide Homes. And they were making good money out of school. And it was right when the housing market started to crash. They all got fired.
7, 8, 9, right in there.
Yep. They all got fired. And I was, you know, out here running the bars, doing my thing, and didn't know what I was going to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going home. I wanted to go west. I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe I can do this and go west later. I started thinking about it. I'm like, why not? And, you know, at the time, hairdressing as a man was one of those things that was like looked down upon. You know, my thought of a hairdresser, and this is, you know, as wrong as it is, it was, you know, it was like low income, or, you know what I mean? Somebody that just kind of showed up and cut your hair in the garage, or didn't, you know, really take pride in it. The pride I remembered was those barbers. You know, they were very proud of what they did. And I was like, you know what? I could change this. I could make an impact on this too, possibly. So at that moment, I decided I'm doing this. And I'm going to go in. I'm going to fight all the things that tell me I shouldn't. I'm going to do it. And I remember calling my mom. And I called my mom. And I was like, Mom, never going to believe this. I got a job. And she's like, awesome. And I'm like, well, actually, I got to go back to school first. And she's like, Bobby, you've been in school for 5.5 years. I'm like,
You can't.
I'm like, listen, no, it's cool. They're paying for it. It's fun. It's, you know, whatever. And she's like, okay, great. What's the job? And I'm like, I'm going to be a hairdresser.
Ooh, you're quiet.
It goes quiet. And all of a sudden I just hear her go, I'm going to hand the phone to your father.
Oh.
And, you know, it was one of those ones where my dad gets on the phone and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, you know, I explained everything that I kind of just went through. And he goes, okay. He goes, listen, he goes, this is the thing. He says, if you think you can be great at it, go be great. He goes, you're off the payroll. You know what I mean? And
I'd love to meet your dad, by the way.
Yeah, and I'd love that. I mean,
you know,
he said, but like, go do it and go do it 100%. And
good for you.
It was,
and you did.
That was it.
And you're sailing now.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
So you got through school.
Yeah.
And tell us how you got started in Thompson Co.
So went to hair school.
Right. How long is that?
It's about a year and a half.
Is it really?
Yeah. So
you learned women's, men's, any styling, hair, coloring, everything. Right?
Everything. So one of the things is I went into it, you know, with this grand idea of I'm going to be this hair master and you know whatever else. But my boss at the time was like, well, you got to go learn how to do women's hair, because women's hair is where the money's at.
Right.
You have color and cuts and things like that. He's like, barbering doesn't do that.
Right. So
I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm not going to barbering school. He's like, no, you're going to cosmetology school. I'm like, cosmetology school, and this is where you have to go touch the feet and do it. I'm like, oh, geez, man. So it was our first day of pedicure class, and I'm like, I was going to ditch. I'll be honest. I was a bad student there. I'm like, you know, I'm not going to that. So I popped my head in, because the classroom is you have to cut through to get out the building. And I popped my head in there, and there's this beautiful blue-eyed woman. And I'm like, oh, shoot, man. I got to go get my pedicure stuff. So I went and grabbed my pedicure stuff. It ended up being my wife, Kayla. Yeah. And
so that paid off doing that, right?
It paid off, man.
Well, that's cool. I didn't know that's how you met.
Yeah. So we graduated school. We decided right away, because I was going to go into the management side, that I would go work for this company for a long time. She'd go do her own thing as a hairdresser. So we actually worked separately for about 8 years. And we were on our second kid. And I'd driven past the space where Thompson Co is located now. And I'd driven past it for 2 years. It sat open. And I had a buddy that was just like, dude, you can do this. You should do this. Like, you've got this. You need to do this. And I didn't know anything about business. I had ran, you know, the bars and the restaurants and things like that. But, you know, I was running these shops. I was running 3 at the time. And I'm like, no, man, I can't do this. And, we had our second child on the way, Logan. And I was spending 40 hours a week in a car traveling to these different locations, and I was giving it 100%. And I remember driving past this place and I was just like, it's home. I'm in Iowa City. This is where I've been. This is my home. I need to come home. And it was one of those things that, went into the building, met the owners of the building. My wife and I had a couple long conversations, and I'm like, we're gonna do this. And we went to go get funding, and we had no money. I remember the week before we got clearance for funding, I had challenged my buddies. I was gonna eat just peanut butter sandwiches for 2 weeks, and they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "Cause it's a mental challenge." I mean, I was into lifting and all these things, and the real reason was because I needed to make sure there was food on the table for my kid and my wife, and I couldn't afford. You know what I mean? So it was for them, and I was explaining this, talking to my father-in-law, and my father-in-law is a farmer up north. Is an unbelievable human. One of the best, Cascade, Iowa. Yes, sir. One of the best mentors I've ever had in my life. And he's like, you know what? He's like, I know you can do this. He's like, I'm going to help you. So he co-signed for us on that note. And, there was a lot of weight that came with that, right? Because you're a young man, you're trying to provide, you're trying to raise a family. And I remember being like, almost like the sense of like, I wouldn't say failure, but you know what I mean? It was like, I got to do it on my own. I got to do it on my own. I got to do it on my own. And that little help, was immenseful, but it was also one of those things that carried so much weight with me because I was like, there is no option of failure.
You're not going to drop the ball.
Never.
You got too many people counting on you.
Never. And, we got into it. We opened up the doors.
What did that teach you? Let's stop there a second.
Sure.
So, a lot of people that I run into, I would say most people are afraid of risk.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are, passionate about the hair business. You're jumping off the diving board. You got your father, is behind you, your parents. Then your father-in-law steps up to the plate.
Mm-hmm.
So you had no way to not jump in the water, did you? I mean,
No.
you had to jump.
No.
But what did that teach you, jumping in the water? Look where you're at today. We'll get there, but
the biggest thing is that I sat there and I had this really deep conversation with myself, meditation, prayer, and I said, am I going to be okay sitting here and taking this risk? Or am I going to be more okay sitting there and saying, what if? And I wouldn't have been able to live with myself if I hadn't said, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because if I put everything into it, and I knew I would, there was not a chance in my mind that I was going to fail. And it's, here we are.
You had no way out except forward.
Yeah, that was
You had no way out. I'm going to make this happen.
My back was to the wall, and,
Right.
and that's what it felt like.
Right.
And, when you have your back to the wall like that, it's pretty amazing where your mind can go and where your mind can take your body. And, that's kind of, that kind of get into some of the stuff we're doing now.
Yeah.
But
I think it's really cool that you had your family behind you, and then obviously your main supporter is your wife.
Yeah.
And you definitely married up, right?
Oh, man.
I mean, way up.
It's not even close. Not even close.
So that's really cool. So you got started. Now tell us how you developed that and where you're at today, and then also tell us a little bit about, weren't you in England or London, some hair salon, and you won some award, and tell us more about that.
Yeah.
Because people around here don't realize how good you guys are, and you and your staff. They don't until they've experienced it.
Yeah. We jumped in, like I said, head first into this. And, we got lucky. It really started from day one. I went into every bar, every restaurant. I'm still bartending a little bit just to like meet people, right? And I went into every bar and restaurant, shook everyone's hand, said, hey, best bartender manager, I want to cut your hair. I want to cut your hair for free. Come in and give us a shot. We got the opportunity to do Entrefest. We had been open for 5 days. And Andre Wright came in. He's like, hey, man, I need somebody to do the hair for this big fashion show. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yes. And I think we had 3 staff members on our time at the time.
Mm.
One of them being Kayla, another one Ashton, who's been with us since day one, who's unbelievable human being. And they kind of look at me like, we can't do this. I'm like, yes, we can. And we got in there and we crushed it. We had a great time. We did great hair. It was a really fun event. We had great people there supporting us, and we got lucky that the business really started to take off right away, kind of. So we were about a year and a half in. And I actually remember this because this was a big pivotal moment for me. I was doing an interview. Some of the university students would come in and talk about entrepreneurship and stuff like that. And this kid's interviewing me for his class project or whatever, and he's like, "Tell me when you knew you weren't going to fail." And I remember I go, I don't know what you mean. And he goes, "Tell me the moment that you guys knew, like financially, that you wouldn't fail or whatever." And I'm like, I don't understand the question. You know what I mean? Because it had never crossed my mind at that point, not even once.
Yeah.
And so, we got a lot of practice, a lot of people coming through the doors, and we had made some really good connections. I met a gentleman named Nick Arrojo. And Nick Arrojo is famous probably most for a TV show called What Not to Wear back in the day. It was on TLC. It was a makeover show, whatever,
I should watch that.
Yeah, right. And he had become a pretty good mentor. And I'm talking to him on the phone one day. And he goes, Bobby, he's not from England. He's from Manchester. And he's like, you're good. You're running a great spot. But you've never done anything. You've never won anything. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, there's that challenge again. There's that football challenge again. I was like, kind of like, screw you, Nick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay. Yeah. So there was this competition called the British Barbers Barber of the Year. And they were taking contestants from all over the world. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I remember Lauren actually brought it up the other day. She's our salon coordinator. I looked at her and I go, I'm going to win this. And she goes, okay, let's go. So I did the prerequisites, which was 3 models. You had to take pictures. You had to take, video of what you're doing. You had to show kind of what you were as a stylist, how you were as a stylist, do all the stuff, turn in my stuff, my application, all that stuff, and didn't think twice about it. So we're sitting in bed one night, and my wife, hits me, and she's like, babe, get up. Your phone's ringing. And I'm like, it's 2 a.m. I'm thinking it's one of my drunk buddies at the bar or something, whatever. I'm like, just let it go. Keeps ringing. So all of a sudden, her phone gets a Facebook message. And she's like, babe, you need to answer that phone call. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, what the hell's going on? I think something's wrong. I answer the phone call, and it's this gentleman named Trevor Studd. And he's like, hey, is this Bobby Thompson? He's an Aussie. And I'm like, yeah, this is him. Is everything okay? He's like, yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of you. We wanna select you for the American representative to come over and represent America over, in England. And I think I about hung up on him because I was like, yeah, okay, man. 2 a.m. And he's like, no, I'm being dead serious. So we'll take care of all your travel. We'll pay for you to go overseas. And I was like sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I'm in.
That's a whole country, right?
Yeah. So I got flown overseas, and I remember getting over there, and I'm in this room. It's a big convention center where we have hairdresser. It's barbers everywhere, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I get 1 model provided to me. I was given this kid from Belgium. He had these big, huge cat-like cheekbones and long hair, and I'm the only guy who gets a long hair model. And everyone else is doing these unbelievable fades, cool haircuts. I mean, they're some of the best in the world that, I am recognizing going, oh my God, I'm in this room with these guys. So I had this guy with this long hair and everyone's doing these fades. And I'm like, okay, these guys are doing fades. And I can sit there and try to do fades and do designs and do stuff like that. Fade is like a shorter haircut, really short at the bottom, taper. Okay. Yep. And I'm like, I can do that for sure, but I'm going to just be one of these guys. And these guys are really good. So I've got this long hair. So I busted out my straight razor and I gave this guy this straight razor haircut, and it was flowing and crazy. And I, did one look where it was all blown out, and then I did one where it was slicked back, and we took these pictures and he just popped, and it was different and it stood out. And, as the American, you go over there, it's kind of like, yeah, okay, stand over there, man. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? These guys are good. And all of a sudden, all of these guys are paying attention. And I got the last spot on the last day to be able to present. And I remember I had 10 people in the front row, but it was the director of the program. It was a couple of these head barbers, and I'm cutting hair up on stage, and they're intrigued. And I look over, and there's this one guy sitting there with this face tattoo, neck tattoo, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're doing in about 5 minutes, but can I cut your hair? I have the opportunity to get one more model. And like, you were able to get a couple models to try to show off. And like, again, as an American, out here, I'd walk up in New York and be like, hey, can I cut your hair? And they'd be like, yeah, for sure, man. Like, let's do it. Out there, they're like, no, man. No, you're American. No. I was like, okay. So I flag this guy down after I get done on stage. And I'm like, man, can I cut your hair? Like, I promise I'm good at this. He's like, just watch you, mate. Yeah, absolutely. He's like, one rule, though. He's got, like I said, face tattoo, gnarly kind of looking dude. I'm like, yeah, what's that? He's like, can I bring me mom? I'm like, yeah, where's your mom? It's this sweet little lady sitting next to him. So him and his mom come over, and I cut his hair. And, it was cool. I gave him the sweet cut. But the competition was, you won first place to be on the cover of the magazine. Second was like the back side of the magazine, inside cover, outside cover, and then, kind of fill the pages in the inside. You wanted to be front cover. So we get the pictures back, we get everything done, and I got the front cover, the back cover, and the 2 inside
That's
covers.
amazing.
So it was pretty cool.
So you had stylists from all over the world?
All over.
That's amazing. See, who would know that? Iowa City, Bobby Thompson, Thompson Co. And look what you got. Look what you set out, and you said, I'm going to do it, and you went over there and kicked butt.
I made sure to make that call to Nick and say, hey, Nick, check out this. So it's kind of cool.
So tell us about, obviously, your lovely wife, Kayla. You met her at LaJames, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your family. Tell us about your kids. And then let's segue into Solon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because now you live up near Solon.
So I have about to be 12-year-old Lola.
Okay.
She's the boss. That's what we call her. Okay.
You had a race with her, right?
Yeah. She was running as I left today this morning. Yeah, she's ready, man. She's ready to rock.
That's cool.
She is, the sweetest, kindest, best little girl, but competitive as heck. She walked up to me about a month ago and goes, Dad, I'm a better hairdresser than you, right? I go, all right, girl. Yeah. I go, let's go series of 5 different things. We'll try it out, And she's already told us, like, she's doing hair. She's all into it. She'll come in, though, to the salon, and she'll literally work for 8 hours, sweeping hair, folding hair. She's engulfed by it. She's amazing. And then we have the 2 knuckleheads below, Logan and Lewis. Logan's about to turn 10. He is, we call him St. Logan. He's the nicest, he's the middle kid. He kind of, people call it the middle child, but I call it my oldest son, and he's the connector. He kind of connects the 2 together, because the 2 on the outsides, Lola and then Lewis, they're the exact same person. They can get a little fiery. So Logan is a wrestler and football player and baseball player and, fisherman, and, he's awesome. And then Lou is, he's our wild man. He's funnier than heck. He's just turned 7. Good little athlete. And, we got a good little crew over there. So
tell us about Solon and what's the vibe up there? I know that great school system, great people. A lot of people are attracted, moving in the country like you did, and they're getting north of town. Just really exciting things going on in Solon.
The best way that I can talk about Solon so far in our experience is that it was overhyped. Everyone's telling me how great it is. Unbelievable. Oh my God, school system to, the where you live, to the little town. And the way that I say is it was overhyped and over-delivered. School system has been amazing. The community aspect of it. I've developed some of the best friends that I could have ever, I couldn't have drawn out the friends that I've met through moving up there. We live on a little 20-acre chestnut orchard, which we chestnut farm during the fall, which is fun. But it's still, about 10-minute drive down to either salon, and you're right back into the middle of it. So it's a nice way. We connect with people all day. I see anywhere from like about 20 to 30 people in the chair a day. And when you see that many people, I love people so much that, like, I don't look at myself as just a barber or a cosmetologist. I look at it as I'm more of a follicle engineer and a best friend. You know what I mean? Like, and I take on a lot of the stuff that they're going through at the time. So when we get done with work, it's a place where I can go and just decompress and relax and kind of tune down and kind of just, kind of process everything at the end of the day. And it's, I'll be honest with you, it's been a lifesaver. It's one of those things that having the ability to be able to go out and just enjoy nature for a little bit and the calm, and it's that close. It's an unbelievable place.
Once you tasted the country, it'd be hard to move back in the city, wouldn't it?
I don't think I could ever do it.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever do it. Yeah.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I forgot to get into a little bit about on the salon. Let's talk about your staff. Let's talk about moving into Coralville. But let's talk about your staff.
Yeah.
Tell us about and tell us how you're teaching mode. A lot of times when I'm in there, you're talking to other kids and you're teaching things, and the ladies are watching you. And just tell us a little bit more about the culture.
Yeah.
Of Thompson Co.
So, Thompson Co is called Thompson Co Salon Parlor not because we're vain and we want to see our name on the side of, the building, but it's because the second that you come in through our doors, we want you to feel like family. It doesn't matter that if you're a staff member, if you're a client, or if you're a vendor. Like, if you're through those doors, you're part of the family. And we've really tried to, I know that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but it's one of those things that we really try to hire great young individuals that are driven and give them an opportunity and a path to be great. So, we do a ton of training right up off the bat. But a lot of times in hair, when somebody comes in, it's a job, they have a commission, and they open the door and they close the door and that's it when they're gone. We try to run it like a company. We talk about it being a career. So it's like, we provide, the 401ks, the disability, the health, all the benefits, paid vacation, because we know how much they give to every single guest in that chair, that we try to make sure that we give back to them. And by doing that, teaching, training, supporting, and you work with them so much that you can't help, that cliche word of family. It's exactly what they become. And we are so blessed to have around 30 individuals that are, I truly love every single one of those beautifully different people more than, you know what I mean? Like it's been the greatest gift. You know what I mean? Like, you started running a business and you can get focused on money, you get focused on growth, you get focused on all these things. The things that I love is when I see my younger staff start to lift up and get it. And they, it's that teaching aspect of it where you see it click, right? And then when you see our staff that's been around for a while start taking the wing and growing these kids up, and it's like, okay, we're doing something right. You know what I mean? And it's the support, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're not my guest, right? You're all of our guests. And we, it is a team thing, because we know that you're only as good as your last haircut. You're only as good as your last experience. And it's about what we do together as this big cog, as this big wheel turning, and we're each this individual cog. And we have a team that has really supported and bought into that. And I still knock on wood on how lucky we are to have the people that we have around us.
Last time I was in there, one of the ladies said that she came from another salon, and I think around Ames or Des Moines. Mm-hmm. She said she learned more from you in the first month than she did there for a year or two or whatever. Mm-hmm. I thought that was amazing. So I think if you just keep teaching in what you know, it's gonna build that group, create confidence in them.
It's funny because so I have friends that are unbelievable at what they do in a lot of different industries and mentors. And the best in the world that I've ever met said that they will always share whatever they know and however they know how to do it, because then it's up to that person to take it and run with it. And it's about growth. And a lot of people see, like I said, growth in the sense of money and business and things like that, which that's like a byproduct of growing people. And that's
you're serving them, you're helping them, you're serving them, you're mentoring them. I know that, when I come in, it's, 15, 20 minutes, doesn't take long to cut my hair, but it's something I look forward to. It's always fun to see you. Yeah. And it's also fun to see your group. They always say, hi, can I get you a cup of coffee? Whatever. It's just, you come in, you have a smile on your face. Yeah. So it's kind of neat. I'm sure you hear a lot of stories, hear a lot of different things, but it's fun to know that, hey, I'm getting a haircut. That's exciting. Yeah. And so you got that with everybody comes in. I don't see anybody come in that's upset or in a bad mood. Like, well, if you are, it's going to leave you real quick, because you're going to have fun at Thompson Co.
Amen.
Tell us about Coralville. Beautiful store, great area, growing area, all kinds of things going on in a new. Tell us about where that's at and tell us about that a little
Yeah.
bit, Coralville.
So we're in Coralville now. We're right off Forever Green Road in
Right.
front of the new Hy-Vee. Getting back to our people, we were in a space that was a little 1,600 square foot space, and we had these people that were just really growing, but we saw a need that they were outgrowing what we were able to provide. And one of the things that was really important to me was to give them opportunity and access to be able to continue to grow. So actually, we have in the new Coralville store, 2 of our long-term stylists are now owner-operators. And we brought them on as partners, and we're going to do that now with the new barbershop, which will be located next door. But it was one of those things that the necessity of it was from more, not necessarily, like we had a ton of business. We had a wait list. We were very lucky to have that. But it was more for the ability to have our staff be able to grow and own something themselves. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the model going forward, is that we want to be able to provide avenues to allow our teams to grow into ownership if they want to, but not to have to do it by themselves. You know what I mean? To have a team around them already provided and kind of a structure laid out for them to be able to, feel supported as they do it. Because that was the hardest thing for me. I mean, that was the hardest thing from going from being a hairdresser to being a salon owner, is that my mentor was phenomenal and supportive and still is. But like when you had a challenging day, where I could call him before, you weren't necessarily calling him and how to handle this and how to do this and how to do that. So I like to say we got some of the lumps. We took a couple of those lumps first, so hopefully they don't have to.
So tell me what your vision is for Thompson Co. Give me a snapshot 5, 10, 15 years down the road.
Sure. So right now we're in part 1 of, I guess, our metamorphosis, right? So we've built this foundation that we'll always keep building upon people, right? And building people up through that. The new one is Thompson Co Salon Parlor. Well, Thompson Co Salon is now going to become Thompson Co Salon Parlor Barbershops. So what we're going to do is we're going to split the concept a little bit. And what we're going to look for is designing it where the salon side is on the one side, the barbershop feels on the other side, but you can get whatever you want, whatever the experience that you desire, to be able to come into that shop and find a space for yourself, whichever that fit is.
It's a haircut, it's salon, it's styling, it's coloring, it's...
Yeah.
Did I get it all?
Yeah. So we do extensions. And for the men's side, we're actually going to start digging into a little bit. We want to bring bald guys back. You know what I mean? So not only the shaves and things like that, but we will do high-end toupee work. We'll do some hairline tattooing. We're going to look into actually on both sides, the men and the women's, not necessarily diving into medical necessarily, but into, men's health and, women's health and, some of the things that maybe can help that a little bit. Because for me, it's a lifestyle. Right? Like I don't like we master hair, and that's a big thing. But like my biggest thing is I want you to be able to come in and do the things that are going to make you confident. So like the lifestyle is like building confidence in every person. Because sometimes I've been around people that'll talk about like pick a model that's beautiful, pick a model that's I'm like, what is that? You tell me what that is, because I think every single person on this planet has some level of beauty,
right?
But somebody's either knocked it out of them or they haven't been shown how to create that. And my goal is to build every single person through that door to feel beautiful, whether it's, like the top end athletes that we get in there to the 6-year-old rocking a blue mohawk that, is like super excited about it,
Right.
So.
That's so cool. So tell us about last spring, you were involved with Jordan Montgomery in a champions retreat. If you want to highlight that a little bit. And then from that retreat, talk about your transformation of getting in shape and in your age group. A lot of times it's just maybe having a few drinks, going out to eat, socializing, and then now you kind of run with a different group as far as staying in shape. But let's start with the champions retreat that you and Jordan put together, and then how that transformed you, or what your thoughts were at that.
Yes. So Jordan is one of my best friends, and he's been one of the most supportive human beings I've ever met. And we you're inspired by others, right? And like seeing how much that he gives to others and how much he helps others. I had the opportunity to go to a Warrior Rising event, which is an amazing event. I recommend everyone look into it and try to go to it. But I was sitting at this table and I was listening to a couple guys that had played in the NFL talking about how bad some of these kids transition over because they're getting robbed by agents, they're getting robbed by different people, you know what I mean? And everyone's grabbing. Now, I'm really lucky that I have a great group of young athletes here at the University of Iowa that I cut their hair. And I was talking to Jordan about this, and I'm like, hey, like we have access to, with some of our relationships, to be able to introduce these kids to people that are going to take care of them, and we can take care of these guys to make sure that they're set up to be okay. And it was, you know, kind of looking out for them. And he's like, he started talking. He's like, you know what we should do is we should do one of these like retreats. I've been to these things before. And I'm like, yeah, this sounds great. Get people around each other. You know, we did it out at Legacy Acres. It's a pheasant hunting farm. And, you know, it's getting people out, some people out of their ordinary and their comfort zone to be able to go do something that they've never done. We did a skeet shoot and, you know, things like that. We did a couple pheasant hunts, which was cool. But it was getting these guys together and around to break bread and to talk and to share. And I remember I was 40 years old at the time. We sat down for our first meeting with Austin Blythe and him, and we started planning this out with Austin. Austin owns Legacy, and he's a great, great guy. And, you know, Jordan started talking about, he's like, do you guys mind if we involve a little bit of faith in this? And at first I'm like, dude, like this should be something that, you know, is
what's that?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like we should probably just focus on like, you know, upbringing and like leadership and things like that. He's like, no, he's like, and Austin's like, I'm all about it. And like, I've always had a relationship with God, but you know, it was kind of like when I needed him. So I'm like, you know what? I'll buy into this. Fine. So I remember we get this retreat on the books. You know, we've got a great group of guys coming through, and you know, it was the day or two before, and he tells me, he's like, Bobby, do you mind if we do this worship? And I'm a Catholic, right? So Catholics, you put your hands together and you're quiet, you know, whatever. And I'm like, oh God, Jordan, are you sure? He's like, just trust me. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I do. Trust you. So we get in this room, and I remember I'm shuttling people from the airport and bringing all these guys in and running around like a maniac. And you know, I've never done anything like this, so it's kind of like nervous on how things are gonna go. But like all of a sudden, these guys just started branching out and talking and conversing. And you know, we get to the point in the night where we do this worship song, and the gentleman comes in to sing the song, and Jordan introduces him and lets us all know that he has stage 4 cancer. And this group of men from all over the country, all in different locations, sat together and prayed and sang. And when it was done, we all put our hands on this young man and prayed. And the energy and the power from that, I have never felt anything like that. And it was one of the most powerful moments in my life. And the rest of the weekend, I had some really deep philosophical conversations with some really great friends that I had met. And this is going to sound really weird, but when I was, the number 41 has always popped up in my life. Always. From the first time I was getting my varsity number, you know, the coach looks at me, he's like, all right, Thompson, you're good, but you're short and you're small. We're going to give you 41 because it makes you a little wider and it makes you a little taller looking. I was like, all right, cool, fine, whatever. I come to find out that my grandfather wore 41. And then, you know, Thompson Co has settled on lot 41, which I had no idea. Our tax ID has 41. Iowa City is 41-4, you know, whatever the coordinates.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all this number that pops up. Our phone number randomly got given to us is 0041. So this number kept popping up, and I kept thinking, you know, like I said, we started this meeting when I was 40 years old. I had just turned 41 when we had this event, and this is going to sound really weird and morbid, but it's like one of those things you get in your own head. But I was like, man, I think I'm going to die at 41. Like, I mean, it's just a weird number that keeps popping up. And through this event, through these conversations with these gentlemen, like I've been through a lot, and I've gone through, you know, there's a whole nother story of things, you know, the college years, I'll just say that, right? That, you know, I'd come back from. And what I had realized through this event, through our conversations and through this praying and the spiritual side is that, and not to get too, you know, into it, but like 41 wasn't when I was going to die, is when I was reborn. Yeah. And, you know, I've met this great group of, I mean, I'd say friends, but they're brothers at this point that we meet with every Friday. And it stemmed from this event. And we run every Friday. You have a 3-mile race, or you have a 3-mile course that's kind of more easy and chill. And then you have a 4.5 to 7-mile course that you go on. And I started running with these guys, and I was 240 pounds at my top weight. And
Wow.
I remember I had one of my buddies who's a cardiologist came in, and he goes, "Brother, I love you, but I'm going to tell you this honestly, so you just need to listen. You're getting a little round, and you're getting into some scary sizes for you." And my number one, A1, most important thing in this world is to be a dad. And that scared the hell out of me, you know? And
It was cool that he told you that.
It was.
Because that took some guts, whether a physician or not. Obviously, docs want to keep you healthy, and, you know, but it was cool that he looked at you as a brother and said, you know what? Take a look at yourself.
It was life-changing and impactful. And I tell him that still. I mean, every 3 weeks when he's getting his haircut, you know? But it was one of those things that I had tried to lose weight in the past. I had an ankle fusion surgery. So like there was all a million excuses why you couldn't, you know, you get busy, you start eating whatever. And I was always an athletic guy, but it got out of control. And, you know, it started with, I told myself after this thing, I'm going to set a goal. And my goal was to go hunt in the mountains. It was to go hunt elk and go up a mountain. I'm afraid of heights. That's part of it. I'm afraid of like the distances and like going up in the altitude and all that. So I gotta survive. Cause like I realized that if I set a number like, oh, I gotta lose 10 pounds, I was not gonna do that because the number didn't motivate me. But
everybody
this event did.
That.
Yeah.
Or wants to.
Yeah. So I set this goal. So I started walking, and my goal was I started walking 1 mile a day, no matter what. Because I did it the first day, it was 15 minutes. I'm like, I can find 15 minutes no matter what the time or whatever.
Right.
So what started happening was after that first mile, and that first mile, believe it or not, was tough. I started getting to a mile and be like, I can go a little farther. You know what I mean? I can drive a little bit more. And you start talking to yourself a little bit, and every time you start getting a little bit more. And then I added weight. Then I put on like a ruck pack, you know, because like I gotta get ready for the mountains, gotta get up there. And I was doing, I think my last walk before I got up into those mountains was 7 miles. And I was feeling good. I'd lost some weight. You know, I had taken it seriously. We went up into the mountains, did the hunt, did really well up there. I wouldn't call it elk hunting. I would call it elk watching because we didn't come close. But it was you know, a lot of challenges. I remember being on the side of this cliff, and the cliff was like probably 60 feet away from me, but I'm terrified of heights. And it was a sheer drop. And I remember being like, this is probably a little embarrassing, whatever, but I'm weeping. I'm sobbing going over the cliff of this mountain. And my buddy Corey's like, you can do it, buddy. It's okay. And I'm like, shut up, Corey. It's not because of that. It's because I'm having a moment with God. Like, because I'm literally telling myself 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot in front of the other. And you hear that a lot. But one of the things that I thought was really cool about it is that what you don't hear is it's 1 foot in front of the other, yes, but is it a solid footing? Am I watching where I'm going? Am I being conscious of where that step is? And I got over that mountain, and it was this valley and just lake and like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And it was, you know, I prayed, I got up there and I just prayed, not from fear, but I prayed about how grateful I was to be at that point. So it was an amazing experience. And I came home and I remembered saying like, don't stop now. Don't stop now. So Cody Kelly, Randy Lang, two of the most amazing human beings I ever met, said, let's keep this thing going from, you know, the event that we had held. And every Friday morning, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to miss this. I'm not going to miss it. So I remember it was the first Friday morning we show up. Cody's like, all right, you going to run with me 3 miles? And I was like, I hadn't ran yet. I hadn't ran at all. It's like, yeah, you know, a little bit of that ego, a little bit of that I can do this. I remember we ran that 3 miles and we got back and I made every single inch of that 3 miles. I about died, but I did it. And I remember having coffee after, and like, I haven't had the runner's high yet. You know, you hear about the runner's high and stuff, but I had that fulfillment of being like, okay, you can do this, man. You can keep going. So every Friday, you know, we would meet up and do that. But then I started sneaking out, you know, I'd call Cody, I'd call Randy and be like, hey, do you guys want to run? You want to do this? And they were amazing in the sense that, you know, there was never an ego with them. I mean, they would kill me, crush me, but there was never an ego. They were encouraging. They pushed me, and, you know, kept me going. And now we're at the point where it's like an addiction. You know what I mean? It's crazy. You know, we did 4.5 this morning, and
You're riding your bike.
riding my bike. You know, we got to
Signed
ride
up
tomorrow.
for the Core 4.
Core
right?
4
Yeah,
did the
it's
Bigs
gravel
last
race.
weekend. You know, we've got a couple sprint tries coming up. So
Good. Tell us about your weight. How much? 50 pounds, 40 pounds? What do you?
I was at 240 this morning, weighed 184. So, you know, it's intermittent fasting, working out, and
What's your
then
diet?
yeah, absolutely a lot of protein, things like that. I usually have one big meal a day, but I'll tell you the biggest thing is the discipline, and I don't have necessarily that great of discipline all the times, but what a lot of people don't understand is when you're going through something by yourself, or what you think is, it's not, you're not.
Mhm.
And like the accountability to those guys now, and like knowing that they'll say, hey, let's go run, hey, let's go do this, like
You have a lot of
it's-
support.
oh man,
Great group.
oh man, it's unbelievable.
It's early morning sunrises are neat, aren't they?
Ah,
So, and also
Crazy.
it isn't just work ethic. It's also your diet. You control that. You watch what you're eating, but it hasn't been easy, has it?
no.
And I think people think a lot of times getting in shape or weight loss, oh, just read a book or I'm going to do this, but day by day, step by step. And then when you're from the champions retreat, you got to run some folks that are kind of active
Mhm.
and encourage you. And look what happened.
Mhm.
So do you want to encourage others to get in shape, to stay in shape?
100%.
Okay.
With that Friday morning group, I know we have a lot of new faces there that show up all the time, and it's because we're inviting out. Actually, I got a couple guys I'm trying to get out tomorrow. But it's one of those things that you get so much from, you know, others feeding you, but you also have this gift that you're given to, like, when you start to get into it, that you want to share.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's contagious, man. It's the
Tell me
best
about the mental
contagious.
side. Not
Yeah.
only losing 50 pounds, 55 pounds, whatever it is, it's amazing. You look fantastic. Tell me about what's it done to your psyche and your soul?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny because, like, it's one of those things that I always feel like I'm a happy, upbeat person, but we got a lot going on. Like, I coach a lot of sports. You know, I do the businesses, I do stuff like that. My salon coordinator, Lauren, the other day pulled me aside and she goes, I just want to let you know, I don't know what's going on, but you have been great. Like, there is nothing that, like, stresses you out. And it's one of those things that, you know, when you start your day like that, like I heard Huberman talking about, like, the first 90 minutes of your day should be spent outside because your body needs that. And I think there's truth to that. I think, you know, getting the sun, getting that fresh air, but like when you accomplish something, or like when you feel like you accomplished something that early, everything else the rest of your day that's that hard, it seems simple. You know what I mean? You kind of, things kind of slow down, you know? The way that, you know, the discipline, you talked about that, like about how, like, you stay disciplined to do it every day, that becomes like a lifestyle change where it's almost like it feels unnatural not to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're brushing your teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tell me about your kids. Have they seen a transformation in their dad?
Yeah. So that's my number one. I don't look at the scale. I go home and hear what Louis says. You know, Dad's like, you know, back in the day, he's brutally honest. He's 7. You know what I mean? He'd be like, Dad, you're chubby, Dad. I'm like, come on, man. Now he's like, Dad, you got a 6-pack, man. I'm like, I'm trying, bud.
That's cool.
But it's cool to see them, like, kind of like replicate that now, right? So the boys are trying to work out every day. Hey, Dad, you want to go do push-ups? You want to go do pull-ups? Yeah, heck yeah, man, let's go. You know, Lola, like I said, went out on a run this morning by herself because she saw me do the bigs and she's like, Dad, there's no way I'm not doing that next year.
That's fantastic.
I'm like, heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing now that you've tasted that, you can encourage others and in their own time, maybe they're going to pick up on it. You just encourage them because everybody has excuses. Too busy, got work, got family, got kids. That's why you do it, though.
Yeah.
For your family, for your kids, for yourself,
Yeah.
obviously. You want to get in shape and then sign up for a race. It isn't doing the race. The races are usually fun because it's what you did to get to the race. Just like the Bix. Look what you've accomplished in the last 6 months. Now you got the Bix and you had a fantastic time. It's great.
Yeah, I think that when you go to the excuses part, right? When people talk about excuses, it's one of those things that everyone's got an excuse.
all day long.
And it's one of those things that I found myself doing. And then when you start holding yourself accountable, because all that is you letting yourself off the hook. And once you start letting yourself off the hook, that's the worst person to let yourself off the hook, because then no one's holding you accountable.
It's just now you have a freedom where you could run home.
Yeah.
You'd be saying, hey, you know what? I'm just going to run home or ride your bike, and it wouldn't mean anything to you.
Yeah.
When you start to get in shape and you start, I can do anything I want. It's cool.
Well, it's cool. You were telling me the other day about, we were riding and doing all this stuff, and you're like, no, now you got to run one right after you get off the run. And now it's the transitions and learning how to transition out. And that's been cool, man.
Yeah, a lot of people that ride 20, 30 miles, they get off their bike, they just fall into a pile. But now you just do little by little, though. You can't do 10 miles off at the first day. Just do a mile, do a half mile. Yeah. Just feel that. So let's finish today. This has been fantastic. I just want to do the 3 H's with you. Okay. So hero, hardship, and highlight. So in your life to date, give it a little thought. There's no standard answer here. Who's your hero?
My hero. I got a lot of them, but the one that I would say, I'm trying not to get.
It's all right. It's a tough question.
My nephew.
Okay.
He was born with spinal muscular atrophy. And
what's that mean exactly?
So he
muscles.
Yeah. So it's like a kind of like a his nerve systems weren't really connected. So it doesn't allow his muscles to grow.
How old is he?
He's 13 now, I believe, 14. Yeah, he's getting up there. It's crazy. But he's I remember when he was a little kid, it was really hard on our family, really hard. And he was reaching for the sippy cup, and he went and he grabbed it like this with his wrist and picked it up and drank it. And I was, my mother-in-law was really upset, and I was over the moon because no one taught him how to do that, but he did it. You know what I mean? And
what have you learned from him?
To see the things that he can overcome, and he's the sharpest. I mean, I used to coach football over at West High, running backs, and he'd be like, Bobby, you missed that. This guy, you should look at this one, or the one position, because he's out of position. I'm like, shut up, Colin. You're not supposed to know that. You know what I mean? But he's so quick. He's so smart. He doesn't let anything affect him ever. He's a positive kid. He's funnier than heck. And he's just an overall BA dude. And I can't wait to see what that kid does with his life.
So you're blessed to be around him and see that. So every day's a great day after you see your nephew and what he's dealing with and how his attitude is. And so.
And it's funny to him or funny to me, because it's like some people are born with legs. Some people are born with wheels, right? And I remember this time where we were outside. He was a little kid. He had just got his first wheelchair. And there's this little rock in the front yard, and he's ramping it. And we're sitting there, me and his brother just chant, ramp the rock, ramp. And he'd sit there and speed up and jump. And he's still this kid, and he's still having fun. He's still inventing new ways to get creative. And it was just, he blows my mind. Yeah.
What's his prognosis? Will he get better, or is it will get stronger?
So the University of Iowa, they have a treatment that he does, I think is once or twice a year. It's $1 million treatment, and the insurance companies help out with that. It's crazy, but this has helped kind of slow down things. SMA is typically the #1 genetic killer of kids in our world, and he's doing great. I mean, he's strong as an ox, for what he can do, and he's just, like I said,
that's fantastic.
He's the inspiration, man.
I didn't know that. So now it means new meeting to the wave. You probably think of your nephew.
No, yeah.
And by the way, in the football, in the college sports, there's nothing better than Iowa wave after the first quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about what those kids are dealing with, it's just, just to give them a few seconds or 30 seconds to a minute. And the other cool thing is the other team waves too.
Yeah.
All the kids do, because they all have children or whatnot and know there's terrible sickness. And you don't want your child sick. Hardship. So far. 41.
41. I got a couple of them. I like to put myself in precarious situations, but I would say going to college, I got lost for a while. I talked about the bar life, and you know, it's one of those things that was a past life, but really got into booze, got into drugs, got into things that were totally not me. And I remember I was sitting outside of the apartment. I was living in a basement of my buddy's house, and I had, this is going to be kind of whatever, but I had, you know, put myself in a situation that morning that wasn't a good situation. I'll just say that. I called my buddy to get out of it. Told him where to pick me up at. I did a, you know, I looked in my drawer. There was drugs in the drawer. I went out, grabbed a pack. I had 2 packs of cigarettes on the coffee table. Grabbed one of them. It was empty. Grabbed a cigarette. Went outside. You know, lit the cigarette and smoke and wait for my buddy to come pick me up. Still a little, and we're going to go work out. I'm a health promotion major. Going to work out. I mean, it's like I'm like shamed about it, but it also helped, get me where I'm at. Yeah. And I remember sitting outside, and time froze for a second. And I remember the sun hitting me, and I could feel this warmth. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, how did you get here? How did you get here? And I started praying. I was the kid that, like, you know, when my aunt that smoked cigarettes picked me up in a car, I would make her turn around, send me home. I was always an athlete, you know what I mean? Like, and all this stuff. And I remember I was letting not only myself down, but my parents didn't raise me to be like this. I didn't have some, you know, traumatic event that made me, you know, whatever. And it was just like, you're a fraud. And my one of my hardships is that it's hard for me to handle hypocrisy. And I was the biggest hypocrite on planet Earth. And I remember just asking God, help. And this light just started shining on me. And I know it's like one of those moments, like, you know, you hear people talk to God and do stuff like that. And I'm not trying to get overly religious, but this was that moment where it was like, I knew I wasn't alone. You know what I mean? And I went home that day, threw out all the cigarettes, threw out all the drugs, never touched them again. Moved out of the basement about a week later, changed my career about a month later. You know what I mean?
This is when you're out of college.
This was right when I was about to graduate.
And
it was just
went
like,
into the salon business.
Yeah. And I was just like, I'm done.
Huh.
I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, you got into some kind of a group that you probably thought that was fun and this is cool, and then all of a sudden, it's kind of superficial.
Yeah, people have a sense to belong, and and you know, like I said, I was a team guy, and I belonged to the wrong team. Right. So
okay, highlight. Let's finish with highlight.
Yeah.
What's your highlight?
My highlight. Wow. I would say my highlight of my I think it's an ongoing one. I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear, but it's an ongoing one. Watching those kids every day, just grow and shine, and like seeing them start putting things together, but then like the accountability that they're taking for themselves, the ability to stand up to challenges, the seeing them struggle through things and then persevere through things like that. I mean, man, am I lucky to be able to be a part of that.
It's not easy to be a father, is it?
No, it's not.
But it gives you excitement. Your eyes just lit up talking about your children. I remember when we were at Solon doing the race, Lola was there, and it's just, she had a big smile on her face. She's running with her daddy. I thought that was so cool. There were a lot of parents with their children. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of kids there, and I thought that was really neat. So neat. You know, it goes by fast. Yeah. Cherish every moment.
We're so busy right now. Like I coach Little League baseball. You know, all kids play baseball. Right. We didn't have a weekend free. And I remember we were sitting there just like for a second complaining about how busy we were. Yeah. And I looked at Kayla and I go, someday we're going to miss it. Right. So love it now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard because a lot of times you are so busy and you just pass each other on the road. So, yeah. Well, this has been fantastic. As we finish, I just want to plug a book I just read, The Art of Encouragement. It's written by Jordan Montgomery. Fantastic read. You know, Jordan's a good friend of ours, and we can't encourage each other enough. So if you haven't got this, it just came out on Amazon, I think 3 weeks ago. Oh, yeah. And it's amazing. And I think if you pick it up and can read it, you'll find just some great things that will happen in your life with reading this book. So Art of Encouragement by Jordan Montgomery. Bobby, This has been fantastic. It's a lot of fun, huh?
Heck yeah, man.
Good to see you. I'm glad you came on, and people have not experienced Thompson & Co. You're missing the boat. Get down there, get your hair cut, styled, whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
To me, it's the old
Just come on
haircut.
down. Come on down for the experience, man.
Good to see you. Thanks,
Heck
bud.
yeah, thank you.
Good to see you.